oh my god, I used to talk to him on AOL Instant Messenger. Welcome. How are you doing today? In my last video, we talked about a guy I was friends with who murdered someone. And for that reason, we are not friends anymore. And when I was like looking into his case and like digging up his appeal, it got me thinking about this stabbing that occurred at a Halloween party when I was in high school. Now, I was not invited to that party, but I had friends who were, and they were there. And I don't know if it was an Austin High or a Westlake party. That doesn't really matter, but I know a lot of Austin High kids that I went to school with were there. And I'm pretty sure the guy who did the stabbings went to Westlake. I could be wrong.
I'm wrong. He went to Bowie.
It's been like 20 years since this happened. On Halloween 2003, I was over at my friend Leah's house in West Campus. I didn't really have a lot of friends in high school, but I did spend most of my time hanging out with college-aged people and like bouncing around West Campus and like UT parties. Oh, I'm from Austin. I should preface that by saying I'm from Austin. So we were doing our Halloween shit at my girlfriend's house in West Campus, and a good friend of mine, Chris Willett, who I've known since kindergarten, fucking love that dude, he called me up on my Nokia. He was like, what are y'all doing? And I was like, yeah, we're partying West Campus. What's going on? He was like, dude, the cops are busting up this party we were at because some dude started stabbing people. Can we come over? Sure, man, come on. So he came over and like hung out with us, and we were like, what the fuck's going on? He tells us the story about like this dude, and like as far as he knew, this kid had been like on probation, so he had been sober for like a significant period of time, and he had just gotten off of probation and was like, fuck yeah, dude, I can do drugs again. So this kid took like 9 grams of mushrooms. That is a lot. Especially for some kid who hasn't even smoked weed in like at least a year. At some point in this party, this kid just fucking starts stabbing people, and I think he stabbed like 5 to 7 other kids at this party. And I want to say that I remember seeing a commercial, and I don't remember what it was for. I think it was some targeted like kids stay out of trouble commercial, and one of the kids who got stabbed, Carter Acevedo, I wonder how he's doing. He was in that commercial. This cannot have been a fever dream. This had to have been a real thing. Anyway, so I remember thinking like, holy shit, that's fucking wild. So I decided to look up this kid who did the stabbings, because like we knew he was gonna get locked up for stabbing a bunch of people. Nobody died, thank fucking God. And I was like, man, I wonder if that kid's out by now. So this is the article that I found. It's from the Austin American-Statesman. The headline of this article is, Judges Refuse to Widen Circle of Responsibility in Stabbings. Interesting. At a late-night Halloween party in 2003, Dustin McManus stabbed 10 high school students in a drug-addled frenzy, earning a 15-year prison term for aggravated assault. 10 students, that is more than I remembered. Holy shit. In the years since, 2 of those victims have tried to widen the circle of responsibility. Oh, the victims were trying to widen it. I assumed when I read the headline that Dustin McManus had tried to say, well, it was the parents' faults for not making sure I did, I don't know. 2 of those victims have tried to widen the circle of responsibility, suing 3 young men for placing guests in danger by bringing 17-year-old McManus to the party despite knowing that he had ingested large amounts of hallucinogenic mushrooms and was carrying a knife. The 3 friends had a duty to protect the unsuspecting partygoers from an increasingly incoherent and threatening McManus. Victims Jennifer Carter and Eleanor Drawn argued in their lawsuit. These were like teenagers who got stabbed. This was not their lawsuit. This was absolutely their fucking parents' lawsuit. Austin High kids, money, money. And when I say money, money, Austin High, old Austin money. Westlake High, no shade to my fucking cousins who are from Westlake, I'm sorry. I don't actually hate Westlake. It's just, I went to Austin High and Westlake was our rivals, so like, fuck Westlake. Okay, so Texas courts however, have rejected the claim, ruling that McManus's friends bore no legal responsibility to control the attacker or safeguard his victims. Except for relatively narrow exceptions, people are not held liable for the behavior of others, the Third Court of Appeals said recently. Texas common law is fundamentally premised on individuals' responsibility for their own actions, the court said. The ruling follows a line of cases clarifying the duty of care, a legal principle that requires adults to act in ways that avoid negligent harm to others. If you injure a child while driving drunk, you're open to a civil lawsuit. Well, and criminal prosecution. But if a guest leaves your party drunk and hurts a child, you are not liable for helping to cause that injury under most circumstances. Yet, even if Texas courts have been reluctant to extend the duty of care to actions by other people, the Third Court of Appeals acknowledged that the two stabbing victims made a persuasive, though ultimately losing, argument in the McManus case. The additional facts in this case: party guests who knowingly bring an incoherent, drug-addled, armed and threatening person to a party and allow him to have contact with unsuspecting fellow guests test the limits of the duty of care, the court said. The first 911 call came shortly after midnight. Arriving paramedics found Jennifer Carter. I think I went to elementary, middle, and high school with her. I would love to look her up, but bitches get married and change their names. Not me! Arriving paramedics found Jennifer Carter semi-conscious and bleeding in a car where friends had carried her. McManus had plunged a knife into her chest, narrowly missing her heart, pulled it out, and stabbed again. Rude. That's no way to treat a lady. Leaving horrible gashes on her right arm and hand. Eleanor Drawn was on her way to the hospital in another car. I remember Eleanor Drawn. She thought McManus had punched her in the stomach until she felt a sharp pain. I looked down on my side, and it was open, and I had stuff coming out, Drawn told jurors during McManus's 2004 trial. Surgeons repaired Drawn's lacerated spleen, but Carter's hand was irreparably damaged despite multiple surgeries. Oh, fuck. The attacks at the unsupervised party stopped when a guest hit McManus with a rock, forcing him to drop the knife, and several partygoers piled on top of him until police arrived. Way to fucking go, kids! Hit that fucker with a rock! I wish they had named the kid who hit this knife dude with a fucking rock. I wanna give him like a pizza, or like a trophy, or a pizza trophy. At his trial, McManus testified that he did not recall the attacks and said he had begun hallucinating after eating mushrooms and smoking marijuana with friends. Found guilty in 9 of the 10 stabbings.
9 out of 10? Really? Why? Why only 9? Why not 10?
McManus received sentences ranging from 5 to 15 years to be served concurrently. Now 23, he will be eligible for parole in May 2011, and his estimated release date is in November 2018, according to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Complaining of lingering physical and emotional scars, yeah, no shit, god damn. Carter and Drawn filed a personal injury lawsuit against the 3 friends who brought McManus to the party. Ramsey Abiad, oh my god. I used to talk to him on AOL Instant Messenger. Jason Knuckles, oh my god, I talked to him on AOL Instant Messenger too. And Travis McLemore. That name does not sound familiar to me. To a large measure, this was about holding accountable 3 people who could have prevented this, said R. Lewis Bratton, Carter's lawyer. Who could be more responsible than the kids who knew he was a danger to himself and others and still took him to a party? I don't know, adults? These are fucking teenagers! A jury should be allowed to determine whether the 3 friends should be held accountable for intentionally unleashing a drugged teenager on an unknowing crowd, Bratton said. But in an opinion released November 4th, 31 months after it was filed, the Third Court of Appeals in Austin ruled that the legal question was not whether McManus's friend had a hand in causing the attacks, but whether they had a duty to protect the victims from the attacker. No such responsibility exists in the law, according to the opinion by Justice Alan Waldrop. Two factors weighed heavily in the appellate's court decision. Under Texas law, adults generally do not have a duty to control the acts of others to protect a third party unless an element of control is already in place, such as that employers exert over their employees or parents over their children, the court ruled. I kind of have to agree with that law. Companies, for example, can be held liable if an employee sent home for being drunk gets behind the wheel and causes an accident. Texas courts have repeatedly emphasized personal responsibility for those who choose to chemically alter their mental state. A notable exception, party hosts who promise imbibers a safe ride home accept responsibility over their guests. Failing to honor that promise can open hosts to a liability for injury accidents. According to the appeals court, McManus's friends had no controlling relationship and offered others no promise of safety. This wasn't the only boy who has been to a party in Austin, Texas in an altered state of mind. It happens, said Bradley Douglas, a lawyer for Abiad, one of the friends who was sued. But I think the responsibility for this conduct ended where it belongs, at the feet of Dustin McManus. Otherwise, where do you draw the line? How far do you let it go? Fuck 'em, man. Sue Austin High School, sue all of AISD, sue Westlake, the entire city. The appeals court also worried about the consequences of creating a new legal duty to control an intoxicated acquaintance. Despite the fact that a person's potential behavior is, by its nature, unpredictable. Could such a duty, the court asked, encourage people to abandon intoxicated acquaintances to avoid that responsibility? Oh, that's a good point. What if the friends have been like, Dustin, you're too fucked up, and just like ditched him in a football field or in an alley? Would they still be at fault if he stabbed people wherever the fuck they left him? They felt that somehow the defendants, because they were in a social setting, should be treated differently. But for over a century, the duty that you owe to people who are harmed is in direct relation to the type of danger that you've created or assisted in creating. There's no exception if the danger you create is in a social setting. Still, the ruling appears to be the end of litigation surrounding the 2003 attacks. Carter and Drawn recently decided against an appeal to the Texas Supreme Court, reasoning that the conservative justices are unlikely to rule in their favor. How fucking Austin is that? Okay, so I've looked up Dustin McManus, Austin, Texas, on Google, and the stabbings happened in 2003. He was convicted in November of 2004. He was sentenced to 15 years, so, like, he's out by now. I don't know what he's doing. Oh my god, wait a minute. There's an article about this kid on shroomery.org. Oh my god, they're raising awareness in the mushroom-taking community. Okay, so here's the original post. Father of suspect speaks. The Austin teen accused of stabbing nearly a dozen others at a Halloween party last year has yet to go before a judge. Dustin McManus has been in jail nearly 8 months now, but has never been brought into court. His father is at every scheduled hearing. Mark McManus said his son Dustin is a good kid who made the unfortunate mistake of taking drugs that night, causing him to hallucinate and spin off into a stabbing frenzy. He's very easygoing, very lackadaisical, very laid back, very bright, his father said. The son Mark McManus describes as brilliant is a far cry from the violent teen police say stabbed 9 people at a party with a switchblade. It was the night Dustin turned 17. Oh no, it was his birthday! For reasons his father can't fathom, Dustin took hallucinogenic mushrooms, grabbed a knife, and started swinging. The reason that his father can't fathom it's because it was his 17th birthday. It's sad to say the friend who drove him to this party that was unsupervised, he actually stabbed because Dustin was going to cut his throat first and he tried to stop him. He didn't know what he was doing. He was totally out of his mind, Mark said. He couldn't believe it until he was on TV and finally saw his picture, and naturally, he went into a deep depression. Even the number of victims was unclear to him. He kept asking, how many? 3 or 4. And I said, I don't know, son, but I want you to prep yourself mentally and physically. Now Dustin is sitting in jail, charged with a serious crime, aggravated assault. But his father says this is all a tragic accident by a 17-year-old honor student who's never even been in a fist fight. He's brilliant. I'm not just saying that because he's my son. Yeah, you are. He really is. He's got academic merit awards and a big support group behind him, Mark said. The next court hearing for Dustin McManus is July 6th. Okay, let's read the comments. This person says, wow, I've never seen anyone react violently to mushrooms. Another person commented, what a jerk. Another comment reads, mushrooms won't make you violent, but they will bring out the violence and paranoia that's already in you. Maybe it wasn't even mushrooms. I've heard stories like that about people on angel trumpets. Someone replied to the I've never seen someone react violently to mushrooms and said, I've seen it twice now. Both times it involved first trips and bad settings. We all need to take this kind of thing very seriously, as it can happen. In my opinion, only people with a lot of experience tripping should ever even consider doing it in a public place, like a party. There's some people complaining about the report not being in English. I don't know what other language it would have been written in, because the initial reports were written in English, including the one that was posted in this mushroom forum. You know what? That's fine. Oh my god. Here's another comment. Yo, yo, yo. I know Dustin McManus. No kidding. I know his brother a lot better, but I knew them all the way through school. First, to clear things up for some of y'all that think he might have been on different drugs or whatever, he was only on shrooms. No booze, even. Maybe a little bit of pot, but I think we all know that doesn't count. I'm not saying that they will make you violent, but they can make you temporarily insane. Which can be fun for most people. For others, it can ruin their lives. He'll be sentenced in the next couple of days, and he's looking at 2 to 20 years. He is all over the Austin news. He ruined his life in one night. I'm not hating on shrooms. I take them all the time, to be honest. But you need to respect the fact that if you're really tripping out, you will be insane while doing so. Smoke, drink, and fuck the police. Oh god, and there's a bunch of people complaining about, like, well, alcohol's legal and people get drunk and beat their wives. That's unrelated. That's the fallacy of relative privation, where people go, how could you be worried about this kid stabbing people on mushrooms when there are drunk people beating their wives? It's like, two things can be wrong at the same time. We don't have to look at one, because the other one's over here. Dustin, wherever the fuck you are, man, you know, I hope you're better now. And to the 10 kids, now adults, who were stabbed by Dustin McManus, I am so sorry for the trauma that you experienced. And I really hope that y'all have been able to overcome as best you can and heal, even though some of those physical injuries caused permanent damage. And to Dustin McManus' father, Mark, bless your heart. I want to thank you for listening. I feel like forgiveness is very important, so I want you to forgive yourself for the time that you have wasted watching this video. And have a good day.